I know it can be hard to say goodbye to our beloved seniors that are leaving, especially myself. That's really all that I'm concerned about. I know that's really the only person that's going to be missed. Goodbyes are hard, but don't worry, we've got just the thing to wipe away those tears. This week, Connor Ciecko got the chance to talk to one of the curators over at the Brookfield Zoo. So let's check out what he has to say and look at the adorable animals that the zoo was nice enough to share with us.
Good morning, Illini. Just because we have to stay home doesn't mean we have to stop learning about the world around us.
The Brookfield Zoo is continuing that mission. But like many businesses across the country, its doors have been closed to the public since Governor Pritzker announced the statewide stay-at-home order on March 21st. Despite this, the work that they do hasn't stopped.
Joining us today is Tim Sullivan, Curator of Behavioral Husbandry at the Brookfield Zoo. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
So before we start, tell me, what do you enjoy most about doing your job?
I walk into the zoo every day and pass by all sorts of exotic and wonderful animals. I think it's one of the best jobs in the world because I get to share this adventure with my colleagues. So it's pretty special to have an employment like this. I've been here about 40 years now. So I was once a keeper in the marine mammal area. So I really loved working with the animals. So working with the dolphins and the walrus were really great. But I learned I was a marine mammal snob. So once I got out of my job and moved into all the other areas, every animal is so unique and interesting once you get to know them. And so that's been the greatest part of the last 20 years of my job, is learning about all the various animals and their niche in the environment and what makes them special and important to the world. And so that's really, really cool.
Over your time at the zoo, you've seen a lot of change in your position and your responsibilities. But even in these past few weeks, there's been an unprecedented amount of change. How has your job changed now?
COVID is just one big change that we're all adapting to right now. There are no policies written. A lot of times we have a chance to predict things that are happening and then develop contingency plans for that. This is no different than any other emergency that we've had at the zoo, whether it's a blizzard or a flood or a tornado warning. We're using similar kind of constructs to make sure that the animals are always getting the highest level of care they can get, taking care of our staff, making sure they're safe. And the only part of the equation that's missing now is our guests. Sometimes we've closed the zoo a few times since 1934, but now we've been closed for almost 2 months. And so that has been the hardest thing to get used to. But as I mentioned, we really have to focus on the animals and make sure that their care is as good or even better than before the COVID epidemic.
I want to talk a little bit about bringing the zoo to you and that whole initiative. Where did that idea come from?
Our mission here at the zoo is to connect people with wildlife and nature. And whether that happens in person when they come here to the zoo, which 2 million plus people do every year, we can still connect them via virtual experiences. The Zoo to You segments is just one more extension of that, where every day at 11 o'clock, we go and find a special animal. And the best thing is that we get our animal care staff to do most of these segments. I was really excited about the African painted dog puppy story yesterday. They got to be the cutest darn little kids around, and they were just fascinated with, first of all, being out in their enclosure, and then getting, I guess I'll call it bones from heaven yesterday, when the bones were just kind of tossed in. They had no idea where they're coming from. There was a half a second of surprise, and then well, this is great. I don't care where it came from. I love bones. I love meat. And they just went around and played and showed all that complex social behavior that African painted dogs are known for.
So how can people continue to support the zoo and the work that you're doing?
Well, fantastic. Join us every 11 o'clock every day. But it's very helpful for folks that still care about animals, still care about our planet and our mission. If they have the means to provide anything to help us along during this time, it's great. You can go to our website, of course, at czs.org or brookfieldzoo.org, and there are ways and different amounts that you can pledge if you're willing to do so. The animals really need it, and we really appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tim, and for telling us a little bit about the work that you're still doing.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Be sure to join us next week as we go a little bit more in depth and learn a little bit more about some of these animals. I'm Connor Ciecko. Make it a good morning, Illini.